Hey guys, just so that you know, we are on board with Connect with the Chamber, part of Border-Kei Chamber of Business. We are letting some delegates, some of our guests into the room so we can have our presentation kick off in less than 30 seconds or so. Audrey Bartis will be doing the presentation and to the guest speaker today. Some Zoom etiquette, she will run through that as well, and then we trust for a great session. All right, we are recording this session. If there are any questions, we can ask them during or after. We'll just see how Jody would like to handle them, and then we can take it from there. So welcome aboard.
So first it's gonna help and you can go back. Oh, you can go back. And I was in pain the whole
Guys,
time.
just a reminder about the
Medical
mute.
medical.
You have a mute button on the far left-hand side. We encourage you to be muted during the presentation.
So I've got to stay down.
Okay, great stuff. All right, so yes, just on the mute side of things, we are encouraging everybody to mute themselves. If you have a question, there is a raise option as well, to which everybody can raise their hand and ask a question. Audrey and myself will probably be monitoring all of that during the presentation. I'll hand over to Audrey. Audrey?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Yeah, we might have some issues with regards to some of the people logging on and so forth, and load shedding has been a hit this morning in quite a few areas. So if we are going to lose a few people, we are, as Sam has indicated, recording the sessions for you. So just let us know if there is a problem in the chat. Just before we start, we just have some etiquette with regards to our session here. Please make sure that all mics are muted unless you are the presenter or you are the host like Sam is. Please make sure that you are muted. So just check your mics because there is quite a lot of feedback coming through, and that will also disrupt this session. And we are now at 11:31. So we wouldn't want to have anything unnecessarily so. If there are any questions during the session, please just chat in the chat box, and Jody will then be able to read it as it goes on. Jody Naidoo has been with us quite a few sessions. This is now our 13th session, and we are looking forward to some interaction today. This is more about you asking the questions. We've got quite a nice panel that is here with Jody as well in terms of his colleagues, and we really want you to engage with them and ask the pertinent questions so that when you leave the session, you don't have unclear issues that is still not resolved. So make sure that you ask those questions. But let's allow Jody to take us through this. If I see any mics still on during the session, we might have to mute you, force mute you. So I'm going to ask again just to please check your mics so that it doesn't interfere with the actual session. Jody, are you ready for us? There will be a session, there will be Q&A shortly, so we just want to make sure that Jody is coming in here. Jody, you ready?
I am ready. Just 1 second. I've got one of my panelists that's just calling me. Can I take this call quickly?
No problem. If you don't mind, Jody, once you're in, just to introduce us to your panel as well, please, so that we make sure that we're not missing anyone. And then for the rest, please allow Jody just to go through. I want to thank you all for logging in, and thank you for joining us. The chamber hits have been quite Sam's baby actually, and it's been quite successful, and we really hope that you are learning from this and engaging with us through this time. I will now hand over to Jody just to start introducing his panel to us. And as people enter, we will just allow them to come into the room. But I think it's best that we start now so that we don't get hit by load shedding as we continue. Thank you so much, Jody.
Thank you very much, Audrey. So first of all, thank you very much, guys, for making yourselves available for this session. And as usual, thank you very much to the guys that you guys of mobilizing stakeholders. So I'm going to be talking about the Manufacturer Support Center, and we've invited some of my project steering committee members to this meeting. The man in charge of the actual program itself is Mr. Marius Kutsia. He's the sector specialist for the Department of Economic Development. And then he's also invited several number of the other priority sector, economic sector specialists to this engagement as well. So Marius, if I may ask, could you quickly just do an introduction of the officials that are here?
Good morning, all. I'm just trying to see who have joined, because some of the colleagues say they may join as we go along. If I look at the list, it seems at this point in time it's just me that is connected. So yeah, Jody, I think as they join, I will advise the chair just to introduce them. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Marius. So I was informed by ECDC that they've got load shedding issues. So Buseko is working from home. She'll be joining a bit later on. And then I had a chat with Mr. Jolingana, who is responsible for the Enterprise Development Unit at Department of Economic Development, who will also be joining. So just for those of you who are not aware of the Manufacturer Support Center, I'm going to take you through a 5-minute presentation. So if you look at your screen, basically the Manufacturer Support Center is an initiative by Department of Economic Development, Environmental Affairs and Tourism, and its focus is to close the gap between the private sector and government in being able to access and escalate any sort of query. So essentially it's a help desk. Along with that, we provide 3 areas of support, but not limited to 3 areas of support. So we provide access to markets, access to technology, and the last one is access to finance. So access to finance essentially is broken down into a number of areas and hybrids of them. But the instrument that we're talking about now, specifically related to the current state of the economy, is the Eastern Cape Job Stimulus Fund. And the Eastern Cape Job Stimulus Fund essentially is a fund that's been set up by Department of Economic Development. It is administered by the ECDC, and the whole purpose of the fund is to retain jobs within the industrial sectors, specifically manufacturing. I think in recent times that scope might broaden. And it pays out essentially 10,000 Rand for every job retained. Us as the help desk, what we do is we entertain applications. With those applications, the portal or the website that you see behind you, distressed companies then come through to the website, they go through this tab that says Manufacturer Support Portal. They create a user profile. So essentially the user profile allows you to create a distress ticket that sort of triggers the next set of events. Once we get that information loaded onto our system, we've got a little summary of what it is that your business does, where it's located, how many people do you employ, which sector you're active in. And then what happens is a consultant then picks up that ticket and sort of starts drilling into the deeper detail and the root cause of your distress. Once we have an understanding of that, we take that very ticket and then we present it to our forum. Our forum is a multidisciplinary forum, so we've got participants from all different sectors in government, as well as sort of quasi-government institutions like the NEF and the IDC. And then we sort of try and unpack how is it best that we can then put this business back onto its road to recovery. So as you would imagine, the mandate from Department of Economic Development is to, 1, strengthen the industrial base of the province. Number 2 is to grow its competitiveness. And number 3, improve the livelihoods of society in general, but looking specifically at job retention and job creation. So underpinned by those pillars, that is what informs this entire process. That's Colin. I'm just going to mute him. Okay, so that in short, for those of you who have not logged any tickets, that is the process. For the rest of the session, I see we've got a couple of the DEDEAT officials that have entered the meeting. I'm just going to allow Marius an opportunity again to quickly introduce the people that are here.
Jody, I'm just looking at the participants quickly. Okay, we got Mr. Akos Kenjana that have joined. He is the Director of Agro Processing, responsible for the development of that sector. Then I see we only got Akko for now. Yes,
and
thank you.
And there was Makaya here earlier.
I'm not seeing Makaya, but Mr. Makaya Matsokoza, when he joins, is the Director responsible for tourism development from the department. Thank you.
So many of you may have logged tickets, and you're probably wondering what's been happening with your tickets and your cases, etc. So the purpose of this session is essentially a follow-up to our previous meet that we've had, just to bring everybody up to speed with where we are in the process, what changes we can anticipate, and if you do not qualify for the job stimulus fund funds, what are the alternatives that we could possibly steer you towards? As we've said previously, the national departments have also put in place relief funds, which applicants may try and access, and they have their own processes, but this is specifically for the East Cape. So I think with that said, let's start with a few questions. I think the process for raising questions is if you could raise your hand and then we'll just respond from there.
Hi Jody, there is actually a question here in our chat box. Sorry, I've only just viewed it now from Drayton. Drayton Brown is our projects manager here at the Chamber. He's saying, hi Jody, would it be possible to assist manufacturers in the ship repair industry?
Yes, so Drayton, the manufacturer support center supports any form of manufacturing. So the maritime economy would be included. That's a ship repair specialist would be included in that. What I need to alert you to is that the policy which governs the funding essentially in recent times has been relaxed a bit. So previously it was 10,000 Rand allocated for minimum per job for a minimum of 10 jobs per enterprise. And now that criteria has been relaxed to a minimum of 5 jobs. And I believe there's a few additional incentives that are in place for enterprises which turn over less than 20 million.
I'm not sure if there's any other questions out there.
Sorry, Chair, it seems Jody's presentation was quite clear. Is there any concerns that may want to be raised by any of the participants, please?
Hi everyone, can you hear the presentation? Is everybody clear on the presentation, or is there any additional questions, please? Okay, there's a question from our director, Les Holbrook. Jody. He wants to know, where does the application process start?
is the application process basically starts with a ticket being created. So prior to creating a ticket, you would log onto our website, which is the mscec.co.za website. You would go to the tab that says Manufacturer Support Portal. There's a set of easy to follow instructions. So the first thing is you create a user profile on the system, and that will basically allow you then to access other features of the system. Once you've created that, you then go and you create your distress ticket. That is also a very straightforward process. It asks you who you are, where you are, what are you doing, what is your value of turnover, how many people's jobs would be affected, etc., etc., etc. On the back end of the system, we are then alerted. So then a consultant is allocated to your ticket, and then a consultant will go through a full due diligence process to build up your case information pack. That case information pack will then dictate which support element you qualify for. From there, our role as the help desk essentially stops, and we hand over the full information pack over to our colleagues at the ECDC. Once it's at the ECDC, it will then be literally double checked to make sure that we've done our bit, followed due process and done our bit with due diligence. And they will then take over the discussion and the dialogue between the applicant and the fund and move the process forward. All in all, the process is meant to take in the region of about 6 weeks. I think with COVID-19 and kind of disruption we've experienced in business, it has been a bit longer than that. Also, I think with the amount of applications that we've received, DEDEAT on their side wanted to make sure that they were sufficiently resourced to be able to respond to these kind of the sheer volume and the sheer value of applications, and based on that, they then amended the policy. So where we are at the moment is, I think we're far down the road with that process, and we've got several applications which have come to us, and we regularly get inquiries from parties who say, well, I put in an application 80, 90 days ago, but I haven't heard anything further. So the whole purpose of this session is for, if there are any parties that have got concerns that have not been contacted either by ourselves or ECDC, who are not sure where they sit in the application list, or they're not sure what the holdup is, to sort of raise their concerns and figure out where they are in the process. I hope I've answered you this.
Chair, maybe just to add to what Jody said, originally the Job Stimulus Fund, which is the instrument being hosted by ECDC on behalf of the department, was really limited in funding, and there was a huge spike, especially around May, June, in terms of application to this fund. So the department had to, through provincial treasury, reprioritize additional funding so that more businesses can be supported. It's affected by COVID-19 now. Everything has been put in place. There's additional funding of 75 million that have been directed towards ECDC that augment 9 million rand that they already have support industry. So there is, my understanding, there's 44 applications from the province that is lying there now with ECDC for consideration, and they have already started looking at these applications from the 1st of August. And the reason for that, why they didn't look at those applications before, was due to the fact that the funding was not cleared yet from a treasury perspective. So all the challenges have been resolved. So now it's going to be really a quick turnaround in terms of engagements with companies that have applied. I think what is important as well is that when you want to apply for the Job Stimulus Fund, the requirements is clear that companies at least need to have 5 permanent jobs to qualify as a minimum requirement for this fund. There's obviously other statutory requirements that is mandatory, but as Jody have said, through the MSC, you know, the requirements are communicated to the company if they wish to apply for that fund. Additionally, there's also some changes on the policy side where previously it was just a 10,000 Rand per job incentive that is provided. That's a pure grant fund to companies that do qualify for the stimulus fund. However, we've changed the policy now to have an additional incentive. So if companies have a turnover of more than 20 million upwards, you will only qualify for the 10,000 Rand per job. So if you have a turnover less equal to 20 million and downwards, you would qualify for additional 3-month working capital incentive, and there's a percentage attached to each one of the annual turnover. So if there's a specific turnover you fall in, you would get 5-6%, and so it goes down to the lowest turnover up to 10%. So that is quite a significant additional funding that would flow towards SMMEs in manufacturing in this space. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Marius and Jody there. We've got quite a few questions in the chat room. So Jody, I don't want us to miss anything. So if we can just go through them and then see if some of them obviously have already been covered by yourself and Marius, then we will just go over them, or we'll skip them, sorry. But I think we just need to answer most of the questions here. Samantha asked Jody, what has the overall success rate been like for the applications to be approved? I don't know, Jody, can you see all the chats on the side and maybe you want to just go through them, or do you want me to read it out to you?
I think if you read them out, me and the panel will then just respond to them, please.
Okay, so we'll go through it one by one, or do you want all of them?
Okay, so let's go through them one at a time, because I think there might be different panelists from our side that might be able to respond.
Okay, so the first one would be, what is the overall success rate been for the applications?
Okay, so the project's been running for the better part of almost 4 years, and over that period, we've had a significant amount of traffic. And what you find is the application success rate all depends on whether or not the company qualifies for the actual application. So part of that is us undertaking a proper financial analysis. In that financial analysis, we basically do a root cause tracking and trace to figure out the company within their application, what is the problem and what is leading to this lack of liquidity in the business. It could be the company is over-reliant on one major customer. It could be that the company has internal management issues. It could be that a material supplier that the company relies on in order to be competitive is no longer serves that purpose and erodes that competitiveness, etc. So depending, it varies from case to case, but overall the companies that meet the criteria, we've been able to put them back on the road to success with this process. I can't disclose too much about the individual cases for obvious reasons, but what we find is that companies want to manage their image in the marketplace. So the last thing they want is to, when they apply for assistance, we get them to sign a non-disclosure, or we sign a non-disclosure agreement. And then we very tactfully manage that entire process. And when there's opportunity for us to inject the cash into them and they qualify for the job stimulus fund, it's a straightforward thing. In other scenarios, you find they're looking for Black economic empowerment partners and the funding that comes along with that, or they're looking to dilute equity because they need to inject some liquidity into their operations. We help them with that. So it really varies from case to case. But the whole idea is that with this entire mechanism that's put in place, The moment you've got a ticket, you can track and trace any sort of related information to your ticket, and we can then give you a firm response on where you are within that process, as far as the help desk is concerned. There are other processes that we plug into, like Maurice mentioned earlier, where you have a mechanism like ECDC or an institution like ECDC that literally takes ownership and manages the administration of the Eastern Cape Job Stimulus Fund. So they too have to follow those processes with diligence to make sure that it's not fraudulent, that it's transparent, that it's done with competence, etc. And they have to work within the framework of their own operating modus operandi. So these are the kind of restrictions that we have. But I believe overall, if you look at our year-on-year growth in respect of success rates and number of companies that we have helped, that's been growing exponentially. And it's probably been more evident than ever in recent times, specifically with COVID-19.
Thank you so much. Okay, Colin is asking, we spend ages, or he's making a comment, sorry, that we spend ages on sorting out the information for the applications, and then there's no feedback. And I think this then boils back to the ticket that you've got, that you can just make sure that they trace it via your ticket. But he says that it takes a lot of work. It takes days of work, and he wants to know, is it even worth it, you know, to do this time and time again? So is there maybe a message of hope here?
Marius, may I answer that?
That's fine, Jody.
So, you know, we get a lot of, bear in mind that this help desk, literally, it's out there in the public domain, and we sort of restricted through the mechanisms that we can use to dispense funding with, because at the end of the day, we are accountable for public funds. So in answering the question, is it worth it? I think that all boils down to the case. If you've reached out to us, what you'll find is almost all our applicants, they will all be able to tell you that we respond immediately. We will send them out an application form. We'll have a conversation with them. If they call us, we answer our phones, etc. Whether it's worth it or not, I mean, I think that's an unfair question to ask, because if you look at our success rate and what we aim to achieve, I mean, it would be kind of pointless to undertake that exercise if you don't believe it's worth it. I mean, if it's worthy. So on our side, what we do is every single one of our applicants, I mean, we know their business and we know their business case intimately. We understand their challenges, but we also restrict it. We can only deal with businesses that are formal. We can only deal with businesses that are tax compliant. We can only deal with businesses that have got permanent staff on their payroll, you know. So there are a bit of restrictions, but for the applicants that have come through, we like to believe we've added value to them. So yes, there's a bit of paperwork, but we can't undertake and provide the answers to our committee with confidence without us having a full view of the case and the application and the applicant's position in that. I mean, with working with in the commercial space, we also are sort of governed by the Companies Act. So what you'll find is that the distress support mechanism and the manufacturer support center, we cannot contradict or contravene any of the regulations promulgated in the Companies Act. So as much as we're out there to help, I think there's a need to understand we don't sit there and simply sign a check. There's a process that needs to be followed. And in following that process, unfortunately, sometimes we need to take the care and due diligence in making sure that we haven't omitted any of the processes, because ultimately we're liable and we're culpable for the cases that we put forward. So I hope that answers you, Colin.
Thank you so much, Jody. Then Bruce is asking, hi Jody, during the June session, we heard that the job stimulus fund packages were waiting for the authorizations related to the changes in the policy to trickle down. What is the current position, please? I ask because I haven't yet had a response to my April application. Before you answer that, Jody, I see that there's quite a few mics that are on. So I'm getting feedback in the background, and I'm just worried that that will interfere when you have to respond. Okay, Ms. Singh Geno, can you please just mute your mic for us, please? Jody, so can you just, the question is, during the June session, we heard that the job stimulus funding packages were waiting for the authorization related to the changes in the policies to trickle down. So what is the current position, please? Because he haven't had any communication with regards to his April application. So Jody, if you can just answer that, please.
So, Bruce, what's been happening is us as the Manufacturer Support Center, we've been out there and we've been building up a caseload. And that caseload sort of bottlenecked with ECDC because on their side, they were awaiting a change in the policy so that we could obviously support applications just beyond the normal criteria that were out there, which I said now has been relaxed. And the second thing is, like Maria said, the funding at their disposal was inadequate for the number of applications that were received at the time. So they were waiting for an additional injection that was delayed, or not delayed, that was needed Treasury's approval. So now that's been resolved. And what we're hoping is that things will start moving along smoothly now. So those of you that have reached out to me in that period, you probably asked me that very same question. And I passed on the very message that we received from the funder is that everything is in process. But now I've been led to believe, and I think that is the case, that ECDC has got their funding. I had a chat with them prior to this meeting starting to hope that they would be present over here. And they assured me that they've received they've got all the casework and they're moving through the process now on their side as quickly as possible. So you should hear from them very soon.
That sounds exciting. Hopefully we will all see some payments coming in soon. Speaking of which, Colin is asking, did anybody get paid out? And I think we just need to couple that with Nigel's question. What happens to applications from May, and when will payment take effect?
Well, both of those are excellent questions. So yes, there's several companies that were paid out. And not this year only, but previously. I think the payouts will start as soon as ECDC gets through their caseload, which, like I said, they should be in touch with everybody that we've been in touch with. When I chatted to Gusteka, she said that they've been reviewing the cases and where they needed updated information like updated management accounts or tax clearance certificates, or if there was company details missing, etc., they would reach out to those agents and just get those cases updated and move through that.
Thank you, Jody. Meco Engineering says, thank you for our funding, which we received in July. So yay, we've got people who got funding 8 months after our application. My first question is, can one apply annually for this funding? And if so, we did our application in November 2019, which was last year, but received the payment only this year in July. So I think he's asking about the time frame there. But the main question is, can you apply for this annually, Jody?
Okay, so remember, this is distress funding. So this is not us subsidizing businesses on an annual basis. The whole idea is for the business to be able to use the funding to turn around whatever negative scenario they're facing in their cash flow and get them back on track. So no, you can't apply for it annually, and I think the application is a once-off for the job stimulus fund. I stand under correction. I think Marius will correct me further on. And then as far as the 8-month delay is concerned, so what happens is we get applications going into the fund, but the fund is limited. So if there's any applications that were approved in the previous year, after government gets its fiscal replacement for its new financial cycle, those will then be paid out as soon as those funds are available. So that would explain why you were paid out in the later stage. But the bottom line is you were paid out.
Thank you so much. Jody, Sam is asking, can a company submit multiple applications for the same sorry, on the same site or for the same site?
Okay, well, that will depend on what are you applying for. Like I said, the only instrument that we have direct access to is the Eastern Cape Job Stimulus Fund. If you're applying to DTI, or you're applying to anybody else, if they sit on our steering committee, we can then put you directly in touch with them and matchmake your funding need to the application process. But understand those are not always grant funding. As a matter of fact, I think most of them are risk or loan funding, and then you need to meet the affordability criteria.
I think we need to just deal with Colin's question directly there, because Colin has sent quite a few things. He's also sent proof of the documentation that they have required, and he sent way more than what was supplied, he said, and unfortunately his question wasn't answered in full. So Colin, I'm just going to park you a little bit. Let's just get into Nigel, and then we can go back to Colin's questions there. Nigel is saying, last question, with the current financial climate all SMMEs face, would MSC ramp up payouts to successful applicants to ensure kickstarting cash flow, which is current non-existing due to the lockdown period? And he says this will assist businesses to return profitability. Kindly, Zanele, switch off your mic. Thank you.
I'm not sure where that one is coming from. So I don't mind answering Colin's question, if I may. So Avi, I'm going to start with Colin. So
That's
Colin,
fine.
what typically in the manner in which the MSC responds to cases is, once you've logged your ticket, we then set up an on-site visit. So we would literally come out, we would visit you, we would sit down, we'd start understanding your case literally from the horse's mouth, and then we'd build up an information pack based on that. Now with COVID-19 and the travel restrictions and the risk around social distancing, etc., as us as the MSC, it becomes very difficult for us to be able to do that kind of exercise effectively. So what we do then is we literally ask for all the information which we feel is relevant, and then once we get that information, we start building up the case pack aligned with the application process. So the information that we would have requested from you is all information that we'd want to have on file, so that in the event that we are asked any questions by ECDC, we have the information on hand to respond to it, failing which we then direct them to you. So that was the reason that we requested that information. Sam, I think I've answered your question in respect of you can use the same site multiple applications. It all depends on the nature of your application.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Jody.
Okay, then we've got Nigel.
Jody, have you answered Nigel there?
So Nigel, I think this is where Marius needs to sort of just step in. What I understand is that smaller enterprises with a turnover of less than 20 million rand will enjoy additional incentives. And one of those incentives would be a 3-month, a 3-month cash flow kickstart, if you want to call it that. I'm not too sure how that is calculated as yet, and I'm not too sure what would be taken into consideration in calculating that. I mean, if you're a small business and you come and you say, you know, I want R1 million a month for the next three months, there needs to be some sort of qualification in order to confirm that that's in fact your need. And I'm not too sure what the process is around that, but maybe Marius should tell us a bit more about it.
Thank you, Jody. I think I've actually mentioned this before, that if you're less than 20 million, you will get that additional 3-month incentive support. It actually, because it's for distressed companies, you're going to actually have a better motivation in terms of what is the impact on your business. So that will actually strengthen your application in terms of the job stimulus fund. So in short, Nigel, definitely it should be used to kickstart your operations. Seemingly during the lockdown, some of the companies, especially companies manufacturing in the construction sector, couldn't really operate because of the lockdown regulations. I hope I've covered you. Thank you.
Is there any more questions for Jody? Or Jody, do you perhaps have any final words that you want to say?
Final words, jeez. Well, first of all, I can appreciate everybody's frustration in a situation like we find ourselves in. I mean, I absolutely relate to the fact that COVID-19 has brought about a huge amount of uncertainty in the market. The reality of the matter is, I think everybody, business as well as government, is really trying to come to grips with how do you deal with this unknown variable that sort of entered our space and created this massive disruption. I think from our side as the MSC, what we are attempting to do is we're literally trying to create a bit of order out of the chaos. And that order rests heavily on us following a process and a system in order to dispense the help that we here to dispense. So with that said, even though it may not seem progressive, I think once the funding starts flowing, everything will be a bit more progressive. And in all honesty, I mean, everybody that's attended this conversation, all the panelists included, everybody's committed to playing their part to alleviate the distress. Also with this particular program, believe it or not, there is no other such program in the country. I think the Eastern Cape is the only one that has it. And even with that, the efforts that we put in to build up a system like this, it's progressive, it's constantly evolving, and it's constantly testing our ability to innovate and meet the rising demands from the market. So just to give you some sort of understanding, when we started this a few years ago, we only had about 16 cases that went through the system. The year that followed, which was last year, I think we had just shy of 30 cases that went through the system. The year at the start of COVID-19 to date, I think we had about 100 plus cases that went through the system, of which the 44 qualified. We did not abandon the ones that did not qualify. We're still looking for solutions for them. But what it shows is that there's been a demonstrated continuous improvement and a path to progress, which we've really embarked on, where we've brought all the stakeholders together. Certainly, we've not got it 100% right, but we've definitely a few steps further down the road than we've ever been before. So I just urge applicants and stakeholders to look at it from that perspective, knowing that we started with very little, and now that we've in fact got a skeleton and a structure in place. The muscle that we'll build onto it will be based on our learnings and all the other inputs that we generate. So with that, I thank you very much for attending.
Jody, while you were talking, there were two more questions that came in there. Can I just ask Mpapa at Border-Kei to please switch off his mic so that Jody can just quickly answer these two questions? Sorry about that, Jody. The one is from Bruce, as he's asking, is the additional cash flow kickstart an automatic process accompanying the job stimulus funding, or is it a separate application?
I think if Marius could just answer that one, I'm not too sure.
Thank you for the question. It's one application. There's no separate application for that. So yeah, everything is considered depending on your annual turnover. Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering, Marius. And then Nigel wants to know, what I need to be clear about is, will the payouts be fast-tracked to assist business facing permanent closure? So is there like a new time frame for this, seeing that we are going through this business unusual time frame, or is it the same 8 months that they have to wait for? Jody or Marius, can you please answer?
Jody, I'm going to come in. I think we've answered that question significantly. The only delays in terms of the applications was due to many factors. So the turnaround time or the standard that we're looking at in terms of turning around on per application is at least 3 weeks. So all the applications that is in the pipeline for consideration for ECDC, they've commenced with looking at that applications from the 1st of August. So hopefully within a turnaround time of 3 weeks, there should be some major progress in terms of those applications. So you won't wait any longer as is needed. But what we need to also understand that in some cases, as ECDC is considering these applications, they find gaps in the information that is being supplied by companies. So it's not just element that there's delays from ECDC, but there's also delays from the companies in terms of submitting information that is deemed a gap in what they have originally submitted, and also to ensure that they comply against the application requirements. Thank you.
And Arthur, if I just may add to that, so what we've also encountered is that we've got a lot of informal businesses or businesses that are micro in nature, where they employ 2 or 3 people, that reach out to us. And we've got Mr. Jolingana as one of the panelists. And I know that there was some sort of relief scheme put together by the Small Business Ministry, and I was wondering if you could just allow him 2 or 3 minutes to just share with us about that.
Okay, you can come in, please.
Thank you very much, Jody, and good afternoon, colleagues, and all those that have been invited. Yes, what information we have in terms of the relief schemes that are provided by the Department of Small Business. The window was closed on the 23rd of May, where about 155 of SMMEs in the Eastern Cape were provided with that kind of a support, the Dept Relief Fund. And the others, I think, benefited from the holidays that they had some loans with SIFA in particular, where they get a 6 months window before they could pay and so on. The restructuring of their loans particularly. Now, I do understand there is a bit of frustration with some who said, yes, we appear that we have been approved our application, but we haven't received as yet any fund in our accounts. And SIFA is working on that. I think as they have closed on the 23rd of May, they are trying to deal with the backlog to ensure that there's disbursement that is happening, including some visit to those companies and so on. So we will really allow, if there's any of our members of the Border-Kei chamber who might experience some challenges with regard to those funds, to contact us, and we can facilitate on our side to track in terms of where is the process. These things were done at national office, not through the regional offices of SIFA. But however, we're working with the regional office of SIFA to ensure that they were able to track and trace people who might have experienced some of the trouble in getting those funds and so on. So my plea, if there are any members within the Border-Kei who might be experiencing those challenges, feel free to contact us, because we're working closely with the Department of Small Business around this relief scheme. So what is currently now been open or running is the sponsorship, support or incentives that they're providing to those who are running the retail outlets, primarily the South African-owned sponsorships, is currently open, and people are really applying and so on. And we are being, updated or get reports periodically as to what are the status and so on. Though there is quite a huge challenge for the Eastern Cape, they have budgeted, I think, 24 million to cover about 3,200 sponsors. We're sitting at 578. So we will really want to get the chambers, if possible, if some of their members are involved in that retail space, to let them know and inform them of that incentive scheme that is still available and people can really apply. Working with the banks, in particular Nedbank and Standard Bank, for getting the 350 as part of a voucher, which can be used to purchase stock, but at the same time they can also qualify to get a credit facility of 3.5 as well. So in total, there's a 7,000 that has been put aside for those that are in the retail space or in the spaza shop. We want to get some assistance during this period of lockdown. I thought I wanted just to share that, Jody, but if there are any cases of people who said, yes, we have received that, we've been approved, but we haven't received anything, I would really welcome, if they could actually provide those details so that we can assist to trace those cases. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jalinga, and especially for the additional information. So obviously, if there are people that are linked with somebody who's also a South African citizen and wants to get some support through that spaza shop incentive, then they will be able to just forward that information. If there's anybody that'd like to link up with either Mr. Jalinga or Jody and Marius and the team, please send Sam an email, and we will link you up with the necessary email addresses as well. I would just like to have our director, Les Holbrook, come in and just give his final words before we do closure for the day, please. Boss, are you there?
Trying to find the mute button. Morning, colleagues, and good morning to Marius and to Mr. Njolingana. And of course, to our favorite friend, Naidoo. Jody, thanks for being so patient with the chamber. We do appreciate how much you've assisted both us and our members. And obviously, as a business chamber, we're committed to transferring the information that we've already received and supporting our members in this process. Mr. Jolingana, appreciate your reach out to us because sometimes it is, you're quite correct, it is a challenge for people to get to the right person. So we appreciate that. So colleagues from the department, and Jody, to you, thank you very much for always bearing with us. And of course, we might call you again and again and again, like the stuck record, but we do believe that it's only by repeating the message and constantly going out there and marketing and branding the support programs that government are offering, that business actually begin to understand that, hey, I can actually apply for this. This could be for me. Let me ask. Let me find out. And our view is that if we don't get the companies to ask, they will never get the assistance. So again, thank you to the department, and Jody, to you, thank you for presenting for us. Sam, to you and Andre, well done. And to all the participants online, what a great participation and attendance. Thank you, colleagues. That's from me, Les Holbrook. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you so much, boss. And then from Sam and I, we just want to thank everybody for logging on. Jody, you've been a real star. Thank you for the fact that we can always count on you. And thank you for bringing the team along as well. And a lot more information than what we bargained for. I'm really hoping that the participants will make contact with us so that if there's anything that they could not ask today, that gets answered as well. So thank you so much, everybody. Safe travels and keep safe. Thank you.
Ciao.
Hi, everyone. Cheers.
Cheers, Andre.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.